Hi everybody, this is Otis Bradley from 50Green.com TV, and this is number 32 in a series of 50 green things you can do to your home now. Drywell pit. Sounds auspicious. What is a drywell pit? What the heck is a drywell pit? It's a pit. We're going to talk a little bit about water issues. This is a simple thing that you can do with your home that'll help the water situation around the world. You probably remember this, probably learned this in 3rd grade biology or something like that. It's the water cycle. So basically what happens is we have evaporation over the ocean and the land, which causes vapor to be transmitted up into the atmosphere, which then condenses and falls in precipitation, right? So when the rain falls down, it lands on the mountains and the valleys and the rivers and the forests, and some of it goes in over the surface into rivers and into the ocean. A lot of it also goes into the ground in what we call the water table and groundwater. And this is what gives us our aquifers, or our water storage. Well, unfortunately, as we build our cities and towns around the world, we've paved everything and we've created a situation where whenever it rains, everything is rushed to gutters and chutes and concrete rivers that force all the water out to the ocean right away, and it does not replenish the ground aquifers like it used to. And not only that, but we use water a lot more intensely. So there is constantly drought, not only in the United States but throughout the globe. And this is the U.S. Drought Monitor from the USDA, and it changes every year depending on the precipitation, obviously. But you would be surprised at some of the unusual places. Look at these places right here by the Great Lakes that have drought conditions. And then, of course, the desert areas. This is a photo here, actually 2 photos, of the Santa Cruz River near Tucson. And you can see here in 1942 the river valley, which was there were quite a few trees, was quite green, and the same spot today in 1989, which is much more arid. Apparently the water table in the Phoenix area used to be about 15 feet below the surface and now has dropped to almost 300 feet below the surface. In my area in California, the city of Oxnard has built this desalination plant here. This great big huge thing which desalts water, but not for the reason you would think, not for drinking water, but to keep the salt water from contaminating the freshwater aquifers. And what happens is you have your land like this, your sea out here, and the groundwater or aquifers in here, and a certain amount of salt water between the two is there's going to be a buffer. But as you deplete, as you pump all the water out from the freshwater aquifers, there's much more pressure for this water to go in. So in our area, we've had to build these desalination plants. Kind of scary, actually. Okay, so this is a drywell pit. So you could simply attach all the downspouts in your house to a pipe that come into this pit, which is maybe 4 to 5 feet deep in the ground. And it partly depends on the percolation rate of your soil in your area. I'm going to show you how to do a quick test on that in a second. But you dig this pit, you line the sides with filtration fabric that simply keeps the little granules out, and then you fill it with stone, 1.5 inch to 3 inch diameter. You fill this whole thing up, and then you can put an inspection pipe in here. They use another piece of perforated pipe with a little cap on it. And one thing that this one here doesn't have, but you might want to put in, is an overflow. And that would be a pipe up at the top, which in case you had a severe rainstorm and this pit filled up, it would give it an outlet, and that might go to the drains in the street. But before it reaches that, this thing's going to fill up with water here, and it's going to give the water a chance to percolate. That's what all these squiggly lines are here. Percolate back into the groundwater. A lot of cities are requiring that you do this now, but it's a simple thing to do. And if you're in a dry area, it's a good way to get moisture back in your soil. Okay, here's that simple perk test. All you have to do is dig a hole 6 inches by 12 inches deep, and fill it with water. After you've filled it with water, fill it up a second time, and you time how long it takes to drain. If it takes longer than 3 to 4 hours, you have percolation problems, and you might not want to do this type of a pit. You can check with your local building codes on this thing too. This is a septic tank, and this is actually kind of almost a drywell pit in itself. What it is these big tanks. When you have a private septic system, it's literally just a big tank, and it's usually divided in two places. The pipe comes in here with all your sewer, and the solids come down in the bottom. The water separates and comes up to the top. Same thing in the second tank, and then the water comes out of these pipes and goes into the leach lines. So if your house is over here and you have a septic tank here, so all your sewer is coming out the pipe going into this septic tank, then the septic tank is going to filter out the solids, and the water is going to come out here, and it's going to go into, usually there are 1, 2, 3 long lines here that let the water drain out, and it diffuses back into the soil where the natural microbes take care of it, and it goes back into the groundwater pit. So that can be, if it's done properly, this can be a pretty green solution. Okay, so why dry wells? It's going to return water to the aquifers, which is important these days. It's going to save runoff from polluting the sea. Instead of having all that water go into the streets and pick up all the pollution and gas and oil and stuff that's on the streets and rush it into the sea, it's going to put it back into the ground where it will filter naturally. Number 3, it's good for your gardens. And number 4, help save the earth and the oceans. That's number 32, another project you can do right now. So thank you very much. This is Otis Bradley. We'll see you on the next one.